Welcome to What the Hill is Happening, City on a Hill's monthly informational and formational podcast. This podcast is where you can come to find out what is happening at our church and the why behind the happenings. Well, hey everybody, welcome into the August edition of What the Hill is Happening. Glad to be with you here again for another month of fun. I am joined here this morning with Kelsey Barker, worship pastor.
Hello, my friends.
Worship extraordinaire, leader,
okay.
IT,
All right.
wonder wizard.
Don't raise my expectations too high.
Glad to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. We've got some fun things to talk about for the month, and
August already.
it makes no sense.
I mean, where has the summer gone?
It makes no sense. I actually have been thinking about this a lot. When the start of the year happened, we had this whole plan and calendar and great things going on, and it's like we are 2/3 of the way through.
I mean, the beginning of the year feels simultaneously like yesterday and 14 years ago all at the same time.
Correct, sir.
So,
yes.
I would say that the summer has been burned away.
Completely.
Because it's been hot.
Well, and I think through that March, April phase when we were in 1 John and we were under construction and we had all that stuff going on.
That was this year?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That feels like forever ago.
And the roof got ripped off.
The roof got ripped off. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been it's a saga. We have a lot of things happening in August. Perhaps not quite as many things happening as we did in July.
I might say praise God.
Praise the Lord
Yeah.
on high. But we do have some really big and important things happening.
Yeah, we do.
I would start with probably the biggest, which is Year Lead.
Year Lead.
August 25th and 26th.
Sign up on the Church Center app.
Yeah.
Here's a link right here.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. I mean, talk about how you feel about Year Lead. It's kind of one of those things so we've always done an annual yearly leadership meeting. And I'm trying to remember now if it was I guess we have. We've done them several times before we called it Year Lead, but that sort of stuck. The marketing of that stuck 3 years ago. This is our third one.
I know the first Year Lead we had was with Paul Gibbs.
Yep.
Talking about the shapes test.
Yeah, which was awesome.
I am a square, and I think you might be a star. I don't know. It may be.
It's debatable. It's
very
debatable.
Pointy star.
Very star-like.
And then last year we had one of our own to speak.
We did, yeah, Bart Castle. And Bart did an amazing job as well with regard to emotionally healthy leadership. And really, really awesome to have someone in-house do that. This year we're doing something even different than what we've done the last 2 years. Rather than having a keynote speaker with a sort of big topic, we're going to adjust the front end of the schedule to give Saturday more small group time.
Yep.
And I think this is going to be a great adjustment. One of the things that I think our leaders that come to Year Lead, which is obviously primarily what this is for, is there's a little bit of a frustration that we don't have enough time in our individual group ministries. We do our Friday night thing. I usually do kind of a keynote Friday night. Sort of a State of the Union of City on a Hill. I'm real excited about this year. We've got some really big things. I think that I'm personally very excited about it. I don't want to oversell it, but I've been looking forward to this Year Lead for several months now. But there's always this pressure on me to get done quickly, and then we have 45 minutes with small groups, and then we've got to get out of there because it's 9 o'clock or whatever. And so,
well, I know for me, whenever I'm addressing my teams that I lead, it's I want to always address core, who we are. We talk about this every time.
Right.
And then there's been a couple times in the past where I've gotten through that and it's all right, so now we have 10 minutes to talk about what we actually need to address.
Right.
So for the upcoming, whatever, and it's difficult. So
it is.
I'm excited about this, and also, just these kind of conferences every year it's exciting to get to pour into our people that serve. It's a big part of what we do as leaders for our church.
It is
building up our leadership because we can only do so much.
You can only do as much as we can do individually.
We're just humans.
Yeah.
I promise. Just normal humans.
Very normal, very average.
Sometimes subpar humans.
And I think that for me, and many of you may not be aware of this if you're not in a leadership structure, specifically and I guess even outside of the small group ministries, because worship's in their host team, there's a lot of them. But for a long time in the history of our church, we had leadership meetings every month. It was a Monday, first Monday of every month. We did a Monday night leadership meeting. We had pizza we did pizza pretty much exclusively, I think. And there was no like large group meeting. It was just like eat and go to your groups. And that got to where it was like people were almost getting burnout from that, especially in Life Bible Study. Like there are things that we have to talk about with regard to like strategies and how to reach people. And I like to really drive home to my leaders the importance of like the empty chair principle and thinking about like who can you invite. And, historically, Bible study, Sunday school, as it's sort of traditionally called, was the evangelistic arm of the church. It's why it was created. And so we want to think evangelistically with regard to our Life Bible Study ministry. But with that being said, when you meet every month, there's only so many things you can really talk about before you're
too much leadership.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And so then it was like we didn't do that for a while, and then we were really lacking. And so now we meet quarterly. We have our quarter lead, which is a Monday night meeting that happens 3 times a year. I realize there are 4 quarters, but that 4th one is the year lead. And so the year lead is a Friday and a Saturday, August 25th and 26th this year. And so what'll happen this year is Friday we'll meet. We'll have food at 6 o'clock. We'll start at 6:30. Have a time of worship. I'm going to give the talk Friday night. Our theme this year is past, present, and future.
Ooh.
And there are going to be parts of my talk that deal with each one of those aspects of City on a Hill. So there's a portion of my talk that deals with the past, and a part of it that I think is really exciting. And if you've been around for a long time, been a member of City on a Hill for some time, I think that part is really going to bless you. I think if you're newer to the church, it's going to be very interesting to you. There's going to be some aspects of that are going to be like, ooh, that's cool.
Well, like most churches, I feel like in DFW, especially in a lot of bigger churches, I would call us a like medium-sized church in I guess more medium for like DFW's context, but for like the nation's context, we're big. We're a big church, and a lot of
huge even.
Oh no! And a lot of bigger churches,
China,
have only been around for like 10 or 15 years. I feel like
yes.
So it's cool that we have a little bit of a longer legacy all the way back to the 80s, man.
I agree, and we've got the present portion as well, which I'm going to do, again, sort of more or less the State of the Union aspect, which is what I have done the last couple of years. And then we have a future part as well that we're all real excited about. So Friday's going to be great. And then what that will do is that will allow us to have that time together. I may even do a Q&A at the end. I haven't even thought about through that yet. I think that's probably what we'll do. Q&A nonsense. We will have a time there at the end, and then that will be the end of Friday night. There won't be like a breakout time Friday night. So the hope is we get out at worst the same time as we normally do. Yep. At best, maybe even a little earlier. And then we'll come back Saturday, and we will have at least 2. We're not going to release the schedule until we get a little bit closer. We're trying to kind of hammer out a few last details, but at least 2 breakout times with your small group or ministry group leaders. And at least for me, in my context for Bible studies, we will do sort of a getting current, talk about what is coming next. I have some plans. We finish Luke sometime in, I believe actually the final week is in November. It's like the first weekend of November we do a recap. So we'll finish the actual extent of the study up through October. And then we're going to do a Christ in the Old Testament study to finish out the year. It won't be a super long study, but that will lead us to more than likely this spring. And then we'll start another book of the Bible, which I have not decided. I think I'm like 98%. If you want to vote on this, that'd be fun. Drop a comment. I think Exodus is probably where we're going to go.
The Exodus poll?
Yeah. No, I had a plan when I initially started writing these to do a gospel, something from the Pentateuch, and then an epistle, and then either a prophetic or historical writing from the Old Testament. And where we fall in the rotation, we just done the second gospel. We did Matthew first in 2019, and then we did Genesis following. So I think Exodus is kind of the next step there. So. Lots of great stuff in Exodus. I've never taught verse by verse through the entirety of Exodus. It's very big. I've studied through it in its entirety, but never taught it. So I'm excited for that. So we'll do that, and then we'll probably do something very specific to. Again, thinking strategically about how our Bible studies. One of the problems we're running into right now in our Bible studies is we have no room.
Which is a great problem to have.
It's a great problem, yeah. But our Bible studies are growing, so that is probably going to be the major topic for our time Saturday is multiplication or what model we're going to use to increase space so that other people can join and grow Bible studies.
Well, I know like the youth have some great things planned on communication, learning how to communicate better with students. Yeah. And I know from my ministries, we'll talk about like our big, values and mission as a worship and tech team and why we do what we do. And then I'm planning some breakouts as far as just training in individual disciplines and things like that, just trying to help ourselves get better. And I'll venture to say as well that if you're watching this and thinking to yourself, well, I don't really have a place that I'm plugged into serving at the church or leading, still come.
Yeah.
Because what we have found and what statistics actually show is that the more that you serve at church, the more that you're involved in leading at church, the more you're going to feel ownership and feel like you belong.
Yeah.
So it's the best way for you to really get plugged in is just jump in, serving, and leading.
It is the definition of the church, right?
Yeah.
It's not the building you attend. It's not like a preacher or whatever. The church is a body. And so, I think the quicker people figure out that this is not a place I come to, but it's a body that I am a part of.
Yeah.
And God has given you gifting, and you may not even know what that gifting is. And part of figuring out what your gifting is, I think, is just sort of jumping into places and figuring out, like, this is definitely not for me, or maybe this is what God's called me to. And I know that there are times, and you may be experiencing this if you're watching this, you've never served before, where you've been invited to serve, let's say, like in the children's ministry or maybe in the host team, and you're like, man, I'm not a very extroverted person, and I don't think that's really for me. I can't tell you how many times people have thought, there's no way this is what my gifting is, and then they jump in and they're like, somehow maybe it is, right? And so you just don't know until you do it.
The Spirit works in those moments or something
supernatural,
stepping out on faith.
So we would love to have you come and be a part of that. I think it's if anything, it give you an idea of just how the leadership teams at City on a Hill really are blessed. There's some incredibly quality individuals that God has put into our leadership. Some very sketchy, questionable people as well.
That one guy with the beard and the hat.
You and I being chief among them. But certainly a good time. You don't have to be in leadership. We'd love for you to join. And just
even if you just are hungry on like Friday night. It won't be pizza this year, I don't think.
No, and I will say, especially Friday night, I don't like to balance because I'd love to have an equal spread of people for Friday and Saturday just for the sake of excitement. But with that being said, Friday night truly is I think anyone can come to that has any interest in City on a Hill, because it really is going to just be more vision casting, and just talking about some exciting things that God's doing here that we're really excited about. And
so even if you're newer, and you're like, what in the heck is going on with this church?
Please come.
You can find out at Year Lead. What's those dates and times again, Derek?
Yeah, August 25th and 26th. It's a Friday and a Saturday. We'll be done, by the way, on Saturday, more than likely just after lunch. So again, we haven't released the full schedule yet, I don't think, but I imagine noon to 1 is probably going to be definitely no later than 1. Depending on if we decide to do food there, we may even be done at noon. That way you can get out and just go to lunch after that and connect up with other leaders, maybe go grab food somewhere and continue talking. We love to encourage that as well. But yeah, would love to have you there.
Sign up on the Church Center app.
Church Center app is where to do it for sure. And you can also, if you don't have the Church Center app, first of all, download it because it's very helpful for more than just
are you doing, man?
Signing up for this event. There's a lot of things you can do with it. But if you have trouble with that at all, then please come on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night, and we'd love to help you.
Yep.
It's a pretty simple process, but there are sometimes little hiccups that people face, and we'd love to have give you every opportunity to
also find the link on our website and on the calendar on our website as well.
Yep. We are going to take a quick break and then bring in our media coordinator, Morgan Phillips, to talk about the next sermon series coming up in August as well. And so stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, welcome in Morgan Phillips. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Good to have you on. We are one of the things that we wanted to talk about for this episode was the sermon series for the month of August. It's a shorter sermon series. Obviously, 1 John was like 17 weeks. Mark in the fall is going to be probably longer than that.
3.5 years is
3.5 years. It will not be that long.
Yeah.
But shorter series are good as well, especially during the summertime. And this year in August, we're doing the ultimate road trip.
Ooh, where are we going?
Yeah, all over to see the missionary efforts of Paul the Apostle in the book of Acts. So, Morgan, being our media coordinator, does a lot of the graphic design and just sort of general art direction for what we do here. Wanted to see what your thoughts were. So, yeah, take it away. Talk about it.
Yeah. So what we do, like when Derek brings us an idea, we usually sit down as a creative team and kind of just talk through like our initial ideas, get some thoughts down, and then we kind of, brainstorm, discuss that further. And so for the ultimate road trip, we just kind of came up with like a VW bus. Help me out here, Kelsey.
It's like this big process of like throwing things up against the wall and seeing what sticks or not.
Yeah.
I think the original idea was to try to put the apostles and Derek in like a Woody station wagon.
Yeah.
And we started talking about that. And we're like, we don't have the resources or time for that. So if anybody watching has like a studio that they wanted to loan us indefinitely, we have ideas to fill it, I think.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think kind of like the idea whenever we first talked about it was like, what if Paul's whole missionary journey was just a long road trip like the family's going on? So, I think we've landed... It's going to be something like a road trip with the family in the 70s almost.
Yeah, something like that.
Is the vibe.
And going around the map that Paul goes on.
Oh, yeah.
If we could get the music rights to the song from Vacation, from Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah.
I cannot say that I have or have not seen that movie or endorse it, given some of its content, but...
what content? You don't know what content
Clark
in there.
Griswold and the what is it, Wally World, I think is where they go. But yeah, that soundtrack, that would be just, that would probably bankrupt us to get the rights to that, but...
Worth it.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing. Look into that for me, guys, please.
And it's always interesting... like with shorter series like this, because we're thinking 4 or 5 weeks, right, Derek? And summer's a little bit of a busier time for the creative team because we make a lot of videos. Morgan is right at the time of the shooting working on the VBS video.
Oh, yes.
Which it's always like with any of these events that we do, it's like, all right, so we took footage for 5 or 4 days, and now let's fit all of that into 3 minutes.
Yeah, usually I have about 3 hours of footage that I have to bring down to 3 minutes.
Yeah. How do you go about like deciding what goes in to those 3-minute videos usually?
Usually I just find the fun parts of, camp or VBS or whatever that really highlights the children. I love getting shots of the volunteers, but I also like to really just show off the kids and how much fun they're having and what they're learning and what activities they get to do during the week. So,
yeah. Awesome. Derek, with this upcoming series, talking about like the highlights of the journey, what things do you think we're going to be hitting? Like what destinations are we going to be stopping at on this road trip?
Yeah, I haven't fully decided yet. I typically will. So we are, again, at the time of the shooting, prepping for VBS Sunday, which is a little bit of a different approach. Requires a little more effort synthesizing. Y'all are synthesizing down hours of, footage. I'm synthesizing down days worth of material into one sermon. And but I think the way this sermon will set up, it will launch us nicely into the Book of Acts. But my goal, I think, is to try to hit at least one of the stops in each of the missionary journeys. So the road trip, is going to span obviously many, many years over the course of Paul's life. but we'll be hitting some of the major high points and connecting hopefully with some of the churches that you're familiar with from the New Testament books of the Bible, churches that Paul was instrumental in planting on those journeys. So, I don't know that I could give too much away because I haven't fully committed yet to exactly which passages. I'm working on that. I have a rough outline, but I do want to hit at least one from each of those journeys. And there's a couple passages in particular that I'm, depending on whether we go for 4 or 5 weeks, I think we'll probably go 5 weeks. I think we'll go all of August, and then September 3rd is the first Sunday in September, which is Labor Day weekend. Only true Christians come to church. Just kidding. But I think on one of those Sundays then, because we'll have 5 weeks, we're probably going to park on a passage where he's not in a place where he plants a church. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a side stop, but it's a really cool story. Yeah. So, that's what I'm looking at. I'm excited to do Acts. I would one day really love to preach verse by verse through Acts. I really love just personally, I think I am more naturally suited in my preaching style for narrative preaching versus epistle preaching. What I mean by that is like Gospels, Acts, Genesis, Exodus, like story-driven books of the Bible, rather than letters that are meant for teaching. Which sounds strange because you would think those are easier to preach. And in some ways they are easier because they are outlined for you. That's the goal of them. But I really love the aspect of story. And narratives just lend themselves much more easily to that. And so I like to tell the story with more, really honing in on the details of things and imagining them the way I imagine them when I read them. And that's just the feedback I've gotten through the years of preaching that I think that seems to be where my strength is. And so I'm that's, incidentally looking forward to Mark as well, because it's the same style of narrative preaching. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Acts. Acts has a lot of great stuff in it. There's so many like fundamentally important things that develop through that book, and perhaps none other than the development of the church. So looking forward to that for sure.
So talking about the ultimate road trip that we're going to go on with our church.
Oh, yeah.
If you had to go on an ultimate road trip, name one album that you'd want to listen to on this road trip.
Go ahead and hand it over. Mine would be none other than Harry's House by Harry Styles. There we go.
Yeah, music for a sushi restaurant is music also for a road trip, I imagine. If I had to choose one album, only one.
Are you going to be able to hone it down to one?
It's really difficult. I mean, the one that's coming to my mind, and I think probably just because it's back in the day when we had these CDs, these relics of our past. It was a double CD album by the Smashing Pumpkins called Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Yeah. That would probably be where I'd go.
Yeah, and for me, this is going to surprise no one that knows me, but I would choose. It's also a double album. It was released together. Coldplay's Viva La Vida plus Death and All of His Friends, which came with a extended play, an EP called Prospects March.
Yep.
Yes, I loved that.
That
album.
That had the version of Lost with Jay-Z on it.
Yeah. Which coincidentally, Mom was the first song I ever owned in my house that had a curse word on it. So, I'm sorry.
Confession time.
Never
with
told
Kelsey
you.
Barker.
How dare I?
You are forgiven, sir.
Thank you. Comment down below as well. What album would you bring?
Yeah.
We want to know. And also, Derek, if Paul on his missionary journeys had to bring an album in his VW bus, what do you think he would listen to?
I think he's probably a Simon and Garfunkel kind of guy.
That's who I was gonna say.
Is it? Yeah. I think. I think it has to be.
Yeah, I would
Simon
say
and Garfunkel or Hall & Oates. He may be a Hall & Oates kind of guy.
Maybe.
Hall & Oates.
Hall & Oates.
Man, terrible.
Very good.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. What podcast would you listen to?
What the Hill is Happening.
Bingo.
Yes.
I teed it up for him.
Wow.
I would listen to the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, but I mean
yeah,
that's just
also very
also
very
a great
good.
one. So good.
Well, Morgan, thank you for being a part of this lovely segment.
My pleasure.
Next,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about a very important class at City on a Hill that we might discover on the way. Will teach us everything we need to know.
Such a bad joke.
About
We'll
our
see you
church.
here in a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the final segment of
It's good to be with you.
What the Hill is Happening. Hello, Hillistines. I want to, transition to something that is really exciting to me and something that we don't talk about probably as much as we should.
There's a lot of things we need to talk about, though. It's like,
I know.
how do you talk about all of it?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't. Sorry, that's my dog. This is a very live setting here. And that is the Discovery 101 class. That's what I wanted to get to. If you are newer to the church and you've certainly, almost certainly heard us talk about it at least once or twice in the welcome, we have a 4-week discovery class that we offer for any of our new people who come to the church to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we believe before you join the church. And so if you're looking to become a member of City on a Hill, we require you to go through this.
Yep.
Talks about the gospel and what we believe about sanctification and our structure. And there's lots of just really important things that we feel like you need to know if you're going to be a covenant member here at the church. But incidentally, we are graduating, if you want to call it that. I think over 30.
Yeah, it's like a crazy large class.
It's like the largest we've had in a long time. So several people are finishing that round here. I guess by the time you're watching this, they will have already completed it, and several of them have been baptized as well. And so, just a really exciting,
which has been really cool.
It is.
I think we had 3 baptisms that we did this past Sunday at the time of this filming, and then we have something like 10 or 15 on the docket, which is just like a huge praise God moment.
Yeah.
And what's been really cool to see is that people who've been going through Discovery class, like they are confronted with the you got to be baptized.
Yeah.
Like it's a call in the Bible upon Christians' lives.
Yep.
And man, it's just been cool to see that. And our Discovery class is led by the most power couple of all the couples.
100%.
Yeah, Brian and Jamie Duncan.
Brian and Jaime.
Yeah, gonna get dunked on in there.
Dunked on them. They do a really great job. Obviously, they're great people, but the excitement in there right now is just really it's unlike anything I've seen.
Palpable.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And so if you are kind of on the fence about, I don't know, and here's the thing, going through the class doesn't mean you have to become a member,
Nope.
right? It's just a great way, I think, if you're considering that, it's a great way to just figure out a little bit more about what we believe.
And also if
what
you're
we
a-
think and how
Yeah.
we operate and all of that.
If you're a longstanding member of our church and you want to bring any of your friends for the first time, and if they become interested and you're like, what's the next step? It's like, well,
That's
go to
it.
Discovery.
Yeah, and we do it in that time frame. It's during the second hour, during the second service, and we do it that way because the hope is that people will come to first service and then go to Discovery class during the second service, and after that 4-week period, they're already sort of in a habit for a month of coming to both.
Yep.
And that they'll transition into a life Bible study or into a place of service where they're serving during that service time and then they're going to first service or vice versa. If there's a group they want to go to during first hour, then they can do that and then come to church during the second, but sort of programs you into being there for both.
Yeah.
And I forget that that's like a weird thing for people. People sort of commit to one service and they come, and there's always this sort of like crisis of like, well, do I want to give up my whole morning? And, it's such a weird... I have to be reminded of that because I've been on staff now for 15 years.
Yeah.
And serving for even longer than that in the praise team, I guess like 16 years. And I mean, this is since I become the senior pastor, this is the latest to the church I've ever shown up. I get here normally like 8:15, 8:30. Sometimes 8:40, 4:45 if I have my kids, and it's a particularly weird morning because my wife serves in the praise team, and so I have the kids with me on Sunday mornings. But for like over a decade, I got there at 6:45. So it's like this is just what church is. Like Sunday is a day to go to church and to be there and to experience multiple aspects of it, not just the service. And so if that's something that you've never experienced, you've never done that before, then I highly encourage it. I think it will reshape your day.
Well, and I would argue that it would bless you very much.
100%.
I think there's a danger, especially in our culture, of church becoming very consumeristic. Just more about like trying to check the box and, fast food drive-in type of like get in, get out. We've did our church for the morning.
And now we can go do whatever we want to do.
And it's not really like that. It's not meant to be like that.
And I'm going to be honest, man. Those post-church naps hit a little harder when you've been there all morning than they do when you've just been there for like an hour.
Man, the most spirit-filled moments for me are
on the couch.
Get home, put some kind of sporting event on the TV, and pass out.
Yes, glorious.
Wake up towards the end
glorious.
And see how it went. It's like it's a new adventure every time.
Yeah. So speaking of that and being tired, I'm tired.
Are you tired, bro?
I've been traveling a lot, and I wanted to just kind of recap a little bit of that. I shared where I was going in the July episode, and obviously back now.
How was it?
It was an amazing experiences. A lot of things that I learned. A lot of things that God worked on my own heart in. In England, it was for school primarily, and so there was a lot of emphasis on academia and reading and research and seeing places that are vital to my field of study, my field of research. And so it was tiring. It was the longest I've been away from my family ever. 13 days.
Yeah, we missed you.
Yeah, I missed y'all too. But the right when you like kind of adjust to the time schedule there 2 weeks in, it's like now you come back and you have to readjust everything else. And so certainly taxing in that way. And then the second trip was to Galveston, which was great. It was with family, so I got to be with wife and kids, and my mother-in-law came along, which I love. I love my mother-in-law; she's the best. And so we spent some time there, watched Cam do gymnastics, had some time in the ocean. Just saw the place. It was a lot of fun, a little more low key, and then turned around and left for Arkansas.
Yep.
And Arkansas was, a very taxing trip. Had to shave. Split my chin open, had to get stitches. But the church that I served that brought me in to do that camp, Ovilla Road Baptist Church, shout out if you're watching from Ovilla. Love you guys. Really great church, just an amazing group of people, amazing group of leaders. And that camp is unlike anything I've ever seen before in my life.
Roughing it.
It's in the middle of literally the mountains of northern Arkansas.
Which is beautiful.
I mean, I didn't know. I had no idea that was a thing. And so driving in, I was just like, this doesn't even feel like America.
I feel like Northwest Arkansas is kind of like one of those like hidden secrets.
Oh man,
that people just don't know about.
It was incredible.
I used to drive through there all the time, going to Branson. That's my grandparents used to live up there.
Yeah.
And every time we drove through there, I was like, can we just stay here?
It was amazing. It was such an amazing experience, and they gave me a cabin. Everyone else, all the kids and leaders slept in tents. That's kind of a part of the experience. That may sound like I was treated to a higher standard.
The speaker.
Yes, of course. Me and actually the worship leader they brought in, he stayed in the cabin with me. Shout out Jansen if you're watching. But we definitely had brown recluse in our cabin at one point. A mouse crawled across the floor at one point. We were talking, and I was like, that's either the largest roach I've ever seen or something else. And shined a flashlight on it. It's definitely a mouse. And so then we started wondering, like, okay, well, what eats mice? Snakes. So are there snakes in here? Like, we really don't know. Every night was a proposition of faith to fall asleep. But
trusting.
Man, it's such a disarming camp in so many ways. And I talked to the leaders about this while I was there, that it's like, the things that kids bring into a camp, especially at that age, 6th grade through high school, what they look like, is their makeup okay? Do they smell okay? Do their clothes look good? Is their hair okay? These are the things that kids start really worrying about. And it's like after day one, all of those things get thrown out the window because none of them look okay, right? They're all hot. They're all sweaty. They all smell bad. They've all got, dirt and mud and blood and all kinds of stuff on them. And it just sort of levels the playing field. And same with the leaders. And so it was just really cool seeing that camp wear away those worries.
Oh, yeah.
And it did it for me as well. I mean, there were some really important things that God did in my heart while I was there.
Yeah, man.
On a personal level that was just really good. And so I am thrilled to be back. I only missed 2 Sundays.
Yeah, which is wild.
It is. I wrote the sermon on that I preached on July 2nd in the plane on July 1st, coming back from England. And then I wrote the sermon for the one that I did after Arkansas. It was actually originally a sermon from the Hope Gathering that we did all the way back. I think that was like in March.
Something like that.
Yeah. And so we, no, that would have been May because it was after Easter. We had the screen. Yeah. So that helped a lot. But yeah, a lot of juggling multiple parts while I was gone, but super glad to be back. Glad to be back with my family. My wife is she did an amazing job.
MVP of the summer.
Every like thing that could have broken down in our home, it feels like did while I was gone. Both cars, hot water heater, plumbing messed up, air conditioning messed up. It was just like one thing after another, and she's here with 3 kids, working full time, keeping them, and I'm not here, and so if you see her, give her a big high five. She is the reason I'm able to do what I do, and a lot of people don't see her because she does things behind the scenes so much, and I wouldn't be able to do the things I'm able to do, minister in the way that I'm able to minister without her. Yeah. So, hugely grateful for that.
Wives, keep us going, man.
No doubt.
If you had to give a shout out to like the best thing you ate on each of your trips, real quick before we wrap it up.
Okay, so let's break it up from England and. We'll break it up from all the places on that trip. So when I was in St. Andrews, it was fish and chips.
Okay.
Way better than in England. Sorry. I think most people in England would tell you that, though. We asked, like, what's the best place to get fish and chips? And they'd be like, Scotland. So, yeah. So St. Andrews was fish and chips. Edinburgh, I went to Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, which was like the one, like, I'm going to go here. And
did you do the beef Wellington there?
I did the Wellington, and it was everything it was cracked up to be. And then in London, best food there was this Indian place that we went to that was like...
Lots of great Indian food.
Yeah. Vindaloo. It was like... It was so spicy, so great. And then let's see here in Galveston, best food in Galveston. We went to this Greek restaurant that was really good. I think that's probably the best food we ate there. Their tagline, I don't remember the name of the place, but the tagline was healthy food since 1500 BC. I thought that was clever.
That is very clever.
And then in Arkansas, best meal there was... This sounds like such a flex, I'm sorry, but I cooked burgers for everyone on Friday, and they were really good burgers. I made like a really killer Southwest mayo, and we had bacon, and it was so sorry, not sorry. That was the best thing I ate.
The chef knows his food,
no doubt.
Yep.
No doubt. So yeah.
Well, I do believe that's the end of our time.
Yeah, this has been fun. And of course, as always, if you have questions, feel free to reach out, message one of us. We'd love to interact with you, and come on Sunday. Pray about even if you're not in discovery class or not really thinking about that right now, pray about what we talked about coming to both services. Pick a Bible study or pick a place of service and just give it a try. Commit for a month or so and pray about and deeply consider, don't even consider, just do it. Sign up for Year Lead right now if you haven't come, because I'm telling you, and with regard to both the past, present, and all of them, we're talking about some really exciting things and things, especially for the future, that you're going to want to know about and you're going to want to perhaps weigh in on during that Q&A at the end of that time there, because God's doing some really great things in the life of this church, and it's pushing us as elders and then as staff to consider how to navigate them, and they're problems that need solutions, but they're really great problems, and so we want you to be there.
Let's pack out the worship center.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's going to be great. As always, if you are wondering what the hill is happening, you know where to come. Until next time, we will see you then.